Clause 32 of PAM Contract is about the war damage. We have two sub-clauses under this section, and there are several items under each sub-clauses. For full statement, you may refer to the PAM Contract 2018. First, let us talk about the procedures following the war damage. In the case of war damage, and this damage is applicable to the works and also any unfixed materials and goods which has already been delivered to the site. In the case of any damage of this item due to the war, when computing the amount payable to the contractor, the damage by the war is disregarded. It means that the contractor is entitled to be paid for the work that he has already done, as well as for the materials and goods that has already been sent to the construction site, even though it is not yet to be fixed into the permanent works. The payment shall be made to the contractor. Now, in the case any of these works has already been damaged due to the war, the contractor will still need to be paid for the work that he has already done, as well as the materials that has already been delivered to the site. The employer cannot reduce the amount payable due to the damage by the war, as it is not the responsibility of the contractor. It is not the contractor to trigger the war, and it is not the contractor to cause any damage to those works and materials. Therefore, by right, the contractor should be paid for whatever that he has done and delivered to the site. Now there are damage due to the war. The architect will issue architect instructions requiring the contractors to remove any debris of any damaged work and also execute protective works. The debris are the leftover due to the damage of the war. The contractor will need to remove it. The damaged work, the contractor will also be removing it. And for the remaining work, the contractor will have to do some protective measure in order to prevent further damage as a result of this war damage. And then the contractor will have to reinstate and make good of the war damage. That means whatever damage due to the war, the contractor will have to rectify it and then proceed with the completions of the work. Because now the contractor will need to remove the debris and protect the work, later for whatever being damaged, the contractor will have to make good and rectify. Time has been consumed for all this work. With that, extension of time is granted. There will be new dates of completions, taking into considerations the time consumed to do the removal, protective work and rectification works, so that the contractor can finish the work accordingly. Now these works has been extra to what was initially agreed in the contract. As a result, this extra work is deemed to be variations required by the architect. So you know when the work is categorized under variations, that means the contractor is entitled to claim for the work being done. Among those variations, it will include removal of the debris or the damaged work, executions of the protective work, and the reinstatement and making goods of the war damage. These three items here was never in the contract before. Now because of the war damage, this will require the contractors to do it. But the contractor cannot do this for free, as the ownership of the project is the employer. Now the damage is on the properties of the employer. The functions of the contractor is to help the employer to make goods, to protect the works and to remove the debris. This becomes the additional scope due to the war damage, and as a result, the relevant work is considered variations and the contractor is entitled for the payment. Now, when we talk about the war damage, PAM contract give a clear definitions in terms of the war damage. Now, the war damage is the damage occurring due to the actions taken by the enemy or actions taken in combating the enemy or in repelling an attack by the enemy. That means there is armed force confrontations between the governments and the enemy. Due to these confrontations, regardless the damage is caused by the enemy or due to the armed force, these are all considered war damage. It can also be due to the damage occurring caused by measures taken under proper authority to avoid the spreading or to mitigate the consequence of war damage. This is also considered as a war damage. It is not only physically damage to the properties, it can also due to the measure taken in order to prevent the attack or to contain the situations, to avoid spreading of the war, responsive to the war, whichever result in the outcome of the work deviate from what is supposedly be specified in the contract in terms of the qualities and quantities. This can also be considered as a war damage. And this kind of damage here is regardless whether it is accidental or on purpose. Some of the damage by the enemies or the armed force are intentional in order to control the situations. Some may be preventive measures that result in drastic modifications in terms of the building structures. All this can be considered as the war damage. Other than that, it can also due to the accidental damage occurring due to precautionary preparatory measures taken under proper authorities in order to prevent or hinder the attacks by the enemy, or involving the doings of the work in anticipations of enemy actions involving a substantial degree of risk to the properties. This is another situation that can be considered under the war damage. This one, it would be due to the precautionary and preparatory measures taken by the proper authority that getting themselves to be ready to confront the attacks from the enemy. And some of those words may bring substantial degree of the risk to the property. Based on what we see here, the war damage can be defined by the actual damage over the property, be it due to the enemy or due to the Malaysian armed force. It may also be due to the damage caused by some measures taken in order to prevent or to mitigate the consequence of war damage. And it may also be due to the preparatory or precautionary measures taken in order to confront the enemy, and normally related to the substantial degree of risk to the properties.